At New Balance, we believe if you run, you're a runner, however you choose to do it. Because when you're not worried about doing things the right way, you're free to discover your way. And that's what running's all about. Run your way at newbalance.com/running.
Welcome back to the Skating Penguin Network, everyone. It is Robbie here again. And of course, on the other end of the line is Snail out in Washington. And we have a back-to-back set to discuss in this recap show. And let's just say not a lot of great topics to talk about after this back-to-back weekend. The Penguins are outscored 10-2 in back-to-back games, one against the Ottawa Senators on Saturday, and then again on Sunday, they lose 5-2 against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And suddenly the Penguins back in another rut here. They cannot build off that game against Edmonton. And these two games were just ugly hockey games for the Penguins. No other way around it. Offense was not good enough. Defense was not good enough. And the goaltending was just absolutely abysmal for the Penguins in this weekend set. And Snail, I mean, we've had bad weekends before, but this one really feels like it's taking a lot of air out of the balloon because the Penguins they had to get something out of this weekend, and they got nothing to show for this weekend.
Yeah, for real. To quote the great Rob Schneider in Waterboy, we suck again. It's it almost feels like they just emptied the tank against Edmonton. You got to kind of think about it too, and I'm not trying to make too many excuses because I'll get to, I think, the root cause of why the Penguins are kind of in this rut for the weekend is I think that they played a lot of hockey in 1 week. Like they did. Yeah. They had 4 games in 7 days?
5 games.
5 games in 7 days.
Yeah, 5.
Dude,
yeah.
Heavy schedule. So, like, first of all, it's a veteran team. I know they've got the youth, but that's another thing I'll get to in a moment too. Some of this youth that they picked up, they need to figure out a way to get things done because the Tomasinos and the Glasses, who else? I don't know. Just pick a young guy that they've somehow picked up. Puljujarvi. They all need to find ways to help dig this team out of the rut. That's what they got brought in to do. Is it's essentially you got Sid, Tanger, and Gino at the top, and then it's the young guys' team. God, the goaltending, dude. I've had it up to here with goaltending with the Penguins. You really notice it when you don't have it. I thought it was a great showing against the Oilers.
Oh yeah.
The whole team though bought in and played just spectacularly. All the little details were so good. But the last couple of
the year.
It is. It was it was just a Sullivan masterclass. You haven't seen one like that in a long time. But man, there's a couple things. Yeah, the youth haven't been punching like above their weight at all. They've really kind of fallen. When's the last time you saw Tomasino on the score sheet? Like, when's the last time you saw?
Oh, yeah.
When's the last time you saw? The last time I really noticed Glass make something happen was when he dished O'Connor goal to get off that 30-plus game drought.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the middle of the season. It's kind of the dog days of the NHL season, and you're seeing it out of these guys, especially the young ones. And dude, yeah, the goaltending. Also, the Penguins. I feel like if they ever play a game that's not out here at 4:00, a 7 or 7:30 game, I just feel like they don't really bode well, which is such a weird kind of. I don't know if there's an actual stat to that, Robbie. Don't you feel like if they ever play like a matinee type game, that's never really like a great showing?
Yeah, that's kind of been like a running theme for the Penguins through this entire generation. It always felt like they never played their best unless it was a game that started in the evening. And that I was always worried, like you'd play the like occasional first round playoff game that would be at like noon or 1:00. Or like sometimes they'd play like post Kentucky Derby, which is like 5:36. It always felt like they were just a step slow to get into those games. And it was kind of always, like a running joke amongst Penguins fans during this kind of generation of Penguins hockey, that they never seem to really be fully in the game unless it was a night game, whether that be 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, depending on where they were in the country. But no, yeah, definitely seems like the Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, matinee, late afternoon games definitely don't seem to have they don't have the jump that they usually do, but maybe they just empty the tank against Edmonton on Thursday night because they had absolutely nothing against Ottawa or Tampa Bay. I think it just at some point the Achari thing has to end. The Nieto thing has to end. Blake Lizotte is a great player, but putting those two guys on his line is absolutely killing his ability to create and score.
Dude, he's got he's got a lot
anchors.
of like anchors, dead weight kind of on his
just
wings.
Absolutely dead weight.
You remember at the beginning of the year, I kind of told you that like I like Achari as a player, but you need like two more Acharis to play with him, kind of like that heavier style. I think it goes the same. Like it's the same with Blake Lizotte. Like he's such a buzzsaw that you almost need like a couple of other. You know who would be a great winger for him would be Tanev. Like two like a Tanev type of player, a Yanni Gord. Just those. You need someone that can match that intensity.
After this game, after the Tampa Bay game, Jesse Marshall tweeted out, you can have a guy like Noel Acciari in the NHL who makes all these mistakes, or you can have a guy like Tristan Brose in the NHL who does all the same things as Acciari does, but doesn't make the costly mistakes every time he touches the puck.
That's a great point. I think that, and we brought this up the last time we recorded. You're trying to tell me there are players in Wilkes-Barre that haven't that outplay an Acciari or a Nieto right now. It makes no sense.
Yeah. Especially like these guys are just they're not it's the eye test. It's every possible statistic you can look at that just shows they're not good hockey players and they're actively hurting the Penguins. Blake Lizotte has had a fantastic year, but he can only do so much. He's not the kind of guy that's going to be able to prop up two anchors on his wings. It's just not the kind of player he is. He needs somebody that complements his game on his flanks. And Acciari and Nieto are not those guys. I wouldn't mind seeing Puljujarvi play with him a little bit because I think Puljujarvi can be the kind of player that can bring out the best in Lizotte. Like Tristan Brose who's down tearing up the minor leagues. I just think there's so many different options for what they're doing, and they're just running this out there, and it's just habitually the same exact mistakes he makes every time on the ice. And Nieto, they bring nothing. They're just a net negative on the team, and it really kills them. It just really kills them.
I say it every time we record. I do not understand what I have to assume is a fascination with Nieto. I don't really understand it. He's a very bland hockey player, and the Penguins have been known to have bland guys kind of in their bottom six. How many times remember even when Garrett was on the pod, like he would say all the time, there's just so many guys, like just guys on this team. And they've kind of started to really round out the roster since those days of hearing that. I just remember we were always talking about Jeff Carter, and there's less of that going on. You've got these spunky, youthful players right now. But yeah, the fourth line, like I've said it before, and I think you have too, Robbie, is like that fourth line, they need to have an identity. Like they need to have sort of an identity. It can't just be players that no longer can play in the top six, which the Penguins have so notoriously overdone. Their fourth line is just players that can't keep in the top six or middle six role. They're not good enough to play up higher in the lineup, but they're not bad enough to be out of an NHL lineup. I hate that. I think you need to select your fourth line with intention. I think Blake Lizotte is a great way to start kind of building out an identity on that fourth line. Fast, tenacious, just little buzzsaws out there, really. So, as much as I love Acciari, I always thought that maybe he was injured when he first acquired, or that first year. And this year, it's like every once in a while, he kind of has an Achari-esque game where he's banging bodies and he's holding on to pucks down low. He's going to the net. He's in and around the net. He doesn't have those games often enough for me to really be in love with the guy.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, he has the games where you can see why he was brought in, but it's like, I mean, it's one of maybe every 5 or more games.
Not even that. He's had probably 3 or 4 games this year, I think.
There was that one streak where he looked like he'd finally turned the corner, and it kind of fed into that, okay, he was injured last year kind of narrative, now he's healthy. And it was like, I don't know, 3 or 4 games back in like November or something like that. And it just completely, like, it just never continued after that. He'll have one of those shifts, or maybe just like a shift or two a game where it's like, okay, and then you see it and then it just goes away. And it, like, his turnover tonight led to the Kucherov game winner. It's just bad. And again, that's just one part of the whole situation from this weekend. The other part being the goaltending was dreadful. It just awful. Against Tampa Bay,
I'm sick. I love Ned.
I'm really done with. I think at some point, if you're serious about making this a playoff team, or at least taking a run to the playoffs, if you continue with this goaltending tandem, they're not making the playoffs. There's no feasible way. They'd be the worst goaltending. No. You have to find a way to get Blomqvist or Larson extended runs in the NHL. It's as simple as that. You got to do something. I mean, it's so bad. Tonight against Tampa Bay, they had a 1-0 lead, and they didn't let Tampa Bay. This is a funny thing. They didn't let Tampa Bay score until 6:54 of the second period. Unfortunately, that was on their 4th shot of the game.
I'm done. I'm done with that stat, Robbie. Like, I'm so sick of that. You've got sorry, you can continue, but I'm done with that stat. First shot of the game, first 3 shots, first 5 shots, and you have a goal. You're digging yourself out of a hole. If the Penguins don't have a potent enough offense to be able to run with that, I don't even think the Oilers would be able to stand that kind of statistic and that kind of goaltending night after night. I'm over it, dude. I don't care what you have to do, but I just can't watch. I can't see Nedeljkovic go in the net and try to like muster up this like, that's our savior. Like, it's not the case.
Yeah.
They have just twisted and squeezed every last ounce of competitiveness from Nedeljkovic that they can. I'll always love the guy. I don't mind if he sticks around as a backup, but Jesus Murphy, Robbie, can't.
If you want me to make it worse, against Ottawa, the first shot of the game was a goal. Second shot of the game was a goal. So they're down 2-0 against Ottawa in 5 minutes, and the goaltender has yet to make a save. Again, it's like 9 times this year now that they've given up a goal in the first shot. Bob Grove, who's like a Pittsburgh Penguins historical guru, said the NHL doesn't track anything like that, so he can't really figure out if that would be like an NHL record or something like that.
I would have to say the amount of times we have to talk about that, and we're asking why isn't there a stat for that, probably shows an NHL team has yet to deal with that. And if they were facing a statistic like that, if they were tracking that goaltender is it's like, learn to speak Russian, buddy, because we're not going to deal with this. Like,
I mean, I've been on this podcast for 4 years, and I can confidently say before this season, I maybe had mentioned it in passing. You have games where they score in the first shot. I mean, that happens, but never. I mean, this is basically a theme of podcast.
That should be an anomaly.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, if they do it once a month, whatever, man, that happens. You get a weird bounce, a good shot, dude. We're almost at double digits now. Like, it's a theme. Like, we talk about this every night. If it's not the first shot, it's within the first 5. Like, they can't. It's not sustainable to keep playing like this, and. I don't know. If you do want a silver lining, I had to go back and look quick. Back right before the weekend before Thanksgiving, they lost to the Jets and Utah by a combined score of 10-2. And then they followed that with a 9-3-1 run to Christmas. So if you want a silver lining, maybe, I don't know, maybe they use it to turn on. And both those games were at home as well. And they were
maybe they need to absolutely soil themselves to really get like a burr in their saddle and get going.
I don't know. I don't know. Michael Bunting didn't play tonight because he was in a car accident before
I
the
saw
game.
that. Just weird.
Michael
You
or
could
not
we could
Michael.
use we could use a Bunting in a game like this. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Bunting's been playing really good
Jesus.
lately.
Yeah.
Evgeny Malkin's heading to IR, but I believe that's retroactive, so I don't know how long he is skating.
Well, they pulled Tomasino off, didn't they? And then because he played
Yeah,
tonight.
they just swapped. They swapped. It's probably just
Mhm.
a paper move to make that
Right.
possible. Rickard Rakell scored again, remarkably, since that is all he does. Apparently, he is up to 22 goals on the year. Snail, he could hit your number by like the end of January.
I know he's just
He
red hot
is
right now.
he
He's
is
just been consistently scoring all year.
yes. Oh yeah, it's just been since opening night almost. I don't know if he scored opening night, but he's been scoring just consistently.
I don't think
all
anyone
year.
scored opening night.
That's right. They got shut out. I forgot about that. He is of all Swedish players in the NHL, he is the second highest goal scorer among Swedish players in the NHL.
Who's number one?
Willie Nylander.
Oh shit! Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
But he will not be on the Four Nations squad.
Nice one. Good job on that one.
Well done by the Swedes there. Kevin Hayes still playing Kevin Hayes, whatever he took out of being sent to the press box has given him a little kick in the saddle because he has been phenomenal since coming back. He gets a power play goal that made it 2-2. And then a goal that I figured, okay, at least we can get it to overtime now. It didn't work. But he gets his 7th of the year. I believe he scored 3 in his last 5 games. So definitely picking up.
I've been saying it for months. Hayes is a good play. He's not a four-liner that deserves to be in and out of the lineup like that. He's not some young kid who's got to learn his lessons. I think he's a veteran that can tighten up defensively at times for sure. I think everyone would agree with that, but I've been like Hayes is not far removed from being a number one power play unit guy, first or a second, probably just a second line center, and on a good team, he's a third line scoring center. The Penguins, Sullivan uses him as like fourth line winger, third line center at times. Sometimes he's on the power play. He's a big body with good hands and a knack for scoring goals. Like I just don't understand what the obviously I'm not a coach. I'm not in the locker room. I don't know what Sullivan sees that I don't, but I just get so frustrated with it. Like, let's stop overthinking Kevin Hayes. And with Gino out, I'd be putting him in the second line center role is what I'd be doing. But the Penguins don't ask me for my opinion.
Yeah. Kevin Hayes has been very good since coming back. Unfortunately, it has not been nearly enough to help the Penguins lift them to where they need to go. Jari tonight on Sunday night here, he had 3 goals on 17 shots, 824 goals against or save percentage. Jonas Johansson, who was the Lightning goalie, they didn't even have to play against Vasilevsky tonight. 2 goals on 33 shots for a 939 save percentage. Obviously, a massive difference there. That is one of the stats that really sticks out there. They're shut out on Saturday. Nedeljkovic 5 goals on 17 shots, somehow even worse than Jari was on Sunday. But I mean, oh my gosh, it's just so frustrating because we had like the road was there for them after Christmas. Like it was very clearly paved, like what needs to be done, and dropping 2 of 3 to the island, the 1 of 2 to the Islanders, and then that loss to Detroit on New Year's Eve, and then blown leads against Columbus and Carolina. You can't leave those points on the board, and they did. And then this weekend, this is what happens when you try to make up ground. You end up especially when you're not a good team, you end up games like you had on Saturday and Sunday against Ottawa and Tampa Bay. You get run out of the building, and you're kind of back to square one now. You only have 1 win on this homestand with 1 game left. You needed something out of this, and you're getting basically nothing. And it's just not good enough.
Not good enough at all. And yeah, it's they've been inconsistent. They've really. It's tough because it seems that like there are games where they actually are playing okay, like playing decently, and then there's something that there has to be, like, it's like a Jenga piece has to be pulled out and you just watch them collapse. And I don't know if it's a personnel issue. I don't know if it's coaching. I thought Sullivan, and with his buddy is practically his twin behind the bench now in David Quinn. I thought that the team at times has, I don't really have much to say about like deployment of players and all that, but it's just sometimes it feels like they're still so fragile that when something goes against them or a big error happens, or it's usually a goal, if it's like a soft goal gets let in, they've been more resilient. But it just seems that there's always got to be something when they're on these stretches where you can almost point to it and you're like, that was the turning point in the game, and they never rebounded from it. And when you've got a goaltender letting in the first shot of the game every single night, it seems you can usually point to that, and it's an uphill climb. And I don't know, it's just making me sick. I'm getting really sick of these goaltenders, Robbie. Like, I'm tired of, it's so frustrating because it's like, trying to find a nice way to say it. It's like you said, I just don't know. You keep Sullivan always says, I'm trying to put the best lineup on the ice that gives us the best chance to win. And is there a point where you go up to Dubas and you have to say, like, I just don't think either of these guys give us a good chance to win? And I feel like the team has earned it to this point, at this point in the season, that they deserve, a blockbuster trade, but showing Dubas like, hey, we could use a little help in goaltending. Why don't you make it happen?
Yeah, I mean,
this episode is brought to you by Love Hurts. Kiwi Kwan has had quite a career, from childhood roles in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and The Goonies to a recent Academy Award win for Everything Everywhere All at Once. But now Ki finally stars as a leading man in the film Love Hurts. Love Hurts is the perfect date night movie with its mix of over-the-top action, comedy, and a ton of heart. Love Hurts, only at theaters February 7th.
You got to try. I mean, you got to at least try something. The goaltending is clearly extremely subpar. You got to just try something. I know that's easier said than done, and I'm not an NHL general manager, but man, you had Blomqvist up here earlier in the year. You had these guys able to play back in October. You got to be able to do something. I mean, I know you don't want to waive anyone, but that, I mean, I really wish they would have punted on the goaltending situation his first summer. It would have been so much easier to just say, you know what,
boy, would that
we'll get Nedeljkovic, we'll get in. They had that dude that came in from the minors early last year that they eventually traded away. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But it would have been so much better.
Magnus Hellberg.
Yeah, that's who it was. He played, I think, one game in Pittsburgh. It would have been so much easier if they just punted on the goaltending situation in the summer of 2023 when Dubas came in, and they just let Jari walk for nothing and went in with it would have been suboptimal on paper. But I don't think you can look at it now and say it would have been a bad decision.
Oh, dude, hindsight 2020 for sure. Like, I think that it would have been so beneficial. Go sign a Cam Talbot for 1 year, 1 million. Go sign a Magnus Hellberg to just be your number one, and you're throwing him to the Wolves for a season. Looking at kind of the vision, maybe a little bit convoluted at first. It's kind of hard sometimes to understand what Dubas had. It's almost like he had two sort of missions: stay competitive and get younger, or stay competitive but also get younger. One of them in setting the Penguins up for being long-term competitive again. That's just kind of hard. It's hard when you're in the midst of when he first introduced these ideas, when he first got hired. As a fan, it's just hard to kind of grasp what all of that means. As fans now, we kind of get it, and we kind of see a little bit of the bigger picture of what he's trying to do here. Punt on Jari, let him walk in free. Wasn't he a free agent?
Yeah.
They didn't even need. They could have. Anyways, you punt on the goaltending, like you said. Sign a Nedeljkovic for 2 years, $2 million a year, whatever you got to do. And God, would that have set them up right now to really have? They've just got a bunch of goaltenders killing it down in the minors, and they're stuck playing Jar. They can't move him. They can't do anything with him. They send him to the minors. They get like what, $700K relief off the cap. It's just
it's barely nothing.
At that point, it's like his stock's not going up. Then it's even harder to get rid of him. It's just the goaltending is a nightmare this year. It just feels like there's got to be something that plagues this team right now in sort of this like weird era that we're in during the Crosby, Malkin, Letang years. It's strange stuff. And I got to be honest, I was frustrated with the power play last year. That was pretty miserable. But right now, it's the goaltending, and if I was a GM, do you know what I would do? I'd probably buy out Jari. Like that's where I'm kind of at. I'd have to see
the numbers on it. Obviously, you can't do it till the summer at this point. But man, you got.
You know why I'm okay with it? I have to make this clear just for the record, because I see so many people online. Oh my God, so many Penguins fans defend Jari night after night after night, and they bring up Carlson, they bring up Letang. Dude, you can't. You said it, Robbie. 9 times this year, the first shot on goal that's not giving that you need a save. You need to mix in a save in the first 5 shots. But you buy out Jari. He's only got a few years. I mean, he has a few years left on that deal. But you've got Philip Larson. That's his name, right? Philip Larson in the AHL. You've got Yoel Blomqvist, not to mention Murashov as well. You're going to be paying them league minimum essentially for a few years. You can afford to have a little bit, I think. I mean, just getting rid of Jari's contract and not having to deal with that mess, that rain cloud above the net every night. Oh boy, I'd pay whatever it took. Not whatever it took. I would pay that, because you're paying nothing for goaltending after he's gone for a couple years.
Yeah, absolutely. But, well, that is done and dusted. The Penguins get blown out in back-to-back games this weekend. They're next up on Tuesday, the final home game of this 5-game stretch. It is coming from Seattle's neighborhood. The Seattle Kraken are in town on Tuesday, the 14th.
They're beating nobody. That's a cookie night. They need to win that game.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the same this weekend. So hopefully they can at least close out this road trip with a good performance and get some momentum going before they head on the road starting Friday. So, Snail, I don't really have anything else besides.
I got a couple things left.
Yeah, go ahead. Just roll them off.
I just got to say that against the Senators, that Senators game, just an awful game. We'll say this: the Senators were coming off a 4-game losing streak. Since they've lost their goalie Linus Ullmark, they have not. He was propping that team up, and that Senators team, they can play a certain way that does not bode well for the Penguins roster. They just don't have the type of personnel to kind of get drug into a game like that. The physicality, Giroux and Tkachuk at the helm, and then you've got Ridley, Gregg, Shane Pinto. Shabbat's not really anybody that's got the piss and vinegar in him, but they've got some players that will bring it to you. Gaudette, those guys they can score, they can play kind of either way. And the Penguins, when they get drug into the fight like that, like in a more literal term, it's just not a game that they can play. They've got Michael Bunting, who was around it. He was doing what he does anyways, but they just don't really have those guys that can kind of, Sid's getting involved. I hate to see him going in and just taking liberties, like taking penalties just to prove a point and stand up for himself. Sullivan doesn't really like players that play like that. So the second I saw the game going that direction, I knew it wasn't going to bode well for them. And that was one that I was worried about a little bit, where I'm like, ooh, you got to get back in the saddle again the next day. That's gonna, I don't know. That game made me not optimistic for the Tampa game. What did you think about the Tampa game though? Too quickly, because the score looks inflated because of the empty netters. They got 2 empty netters there at the end. Yeah. It was essentially a 3-2 game, I would like to say. Hagel scored. He was around it all night. You feel like it was the Hagel goal was coming, But what besides the goaltending? I mean, like, what were your kind of initial thoughts on what kind of ailed? I mean, the Achari turnover is a good point. Was it the bottom six? Is it the depth? Is that what needed to be stronger when you're going up against a team like Tampa? I mean, they've got depth in spades, not what they used to have, but they've got it. And what'd you think?
I think they controlled the game for large portions. The Penguins did. Maybe their best first period of the season. They get that early goal to go up 1-0, and I thought they played really good hockey. And then it's just mistakes. It is just brain farts. It's the goaltending, obviously. But I thought your top end guys, your top six, played really good hockey. Yeah, I mean, overall, this was a better game than Saturday from the players. It's just the same things that kill you. It's called an Achilles heel for a reason, and it absolutely showed up tonight. And it spoiled an actually pretty solid effort from the Penguins, other than the same stuff that kills you every night.
That's what I kind of thought. Another kind of spoiled effort. Details were. It just seems like the Penguins have this horrible luck with, like, if they do have a kind of a brain fart or a mistake, they just get punished for it immediately. It usually ends up in the back of their net. So anyways, I just wanted to get kind of your overall 2 cents on today, because it was a better game. That when they're not dealing with the chaos of a team like a Senators team or something like that, like with the way that they can kind of drag you into a fight, thought it was a better showing. But yeah, they got to regroup, man, because they're not far out of it. You know what I mean? The Red Wings are catching fire right now. I saw that the Rangers won 2 in a row recently.
Detroit's won 7 in a row.
That's crazy. I don't buy that though, Robbie. I'm going to be honest with you.
I mean, it's probably a new.
It's a new coach bump.
Yeah, it's a new coach effect. But again, I mean, when you're a bubble team, that's incredibly valuable.
It is.
Whenever it happens, I mean, it's going to wear off probably at some point. But the Penguins, back when Dan Bylsma and Mike Sullivan took over back in those years, the Penguins, again, they had a lot more talent than what this roster Detroit has. But that new coach bump is definitely a real thing. So whether it's just a mirage or what, if you're a Red Wings fan, you're not at all complaining about it. You're taking that, and you're hoping it can just continue as long as possible.
I think that
7-game winning streak right now.
No shit, of course, yeah.
I don't care if they give up 5 goals a game.
Would you take it? Would you take a 7-game winning streak right now at the expense of Mike Sullivan?
Yeah, because I really want him gone either way. So
yeah, I hear you, man. I kind of feel the same way. I'll take a new coach bump, even if it, give me 10 games of bliss and get yourself into a playoff spot and then just hang on for dear life. Yeah. Anyways, I was checking in on the baby Penguins, on the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. Emil Benstrom, we kind of forget he was kind of one of those first.
Another guy you could easily replace Nieto or Achari with, and I think it would be an improvement.
Well, what I don't understand is we acquired him. Dubas acquired him. He's kind of one of those first like bubble young players that did like a new sort of change of scenery. I don't know if he was a first round pick, but decent player. And he had some pretty clutch goals for the Penguins last season. He's that right shot. I think is he a Swede? Either way, I believe so, yeah. I saw him. He's an AHL All-Star.
He's one of their best AHL players. Yeah,
he's on that same contract, I believe, that he was on. But isn't he? Wasn't he on? Didn't he have like 1 year after? I don't know. I swear he's on that same contract. I do not understand why a guy like that is not getting at least a sniff with the Penguins roster. Like, I think right now with the rut that they're in, there's a plenty of time for a move to bring up a guy like him. Hell, what happened to that little guy? I used to always wonder what you guys saw in him, but Pustin.
Yeah, he's down. I believe he scored for the AHL team this weekend at some point, maybe Friday night or something like that.
Throw him on a line with Lizotte. Like, I mean, he can buzz around out there.
I just think there's so many options that are better than Nieto and Achari that anything, just try something. But
and I'm not saying just get rid of Achari like right now. I'm not saying like he needs to be gone, but he wouldn't be the hardest contract to move. You know how many teams would put their hand up for an Achari? I mean, I think that there's teams that would put
I think you could definitely find someone, yeah.
I think there are teams that could use a guy like him in their bottom 6 or whatever that play a different style than the Penguins do. Who that is, I don't know. I could see him going to like probably some of the teams he used to play for, like St. Louis or Florida or Boston, or I don't know, something like that. But I saw Emil Benstrom. Good for him on taking that opportunity. He could sulk. He was in the NHL plenty, and now he's in the AHL as an all-star. I could see him sulking over that, but he's on a roll right now. He's one of their hottest players. Give us Philip Larson and Emil Benstrom in the next game.
I'll take it. It can't get worse. It literally can't get worse.
And then you mentioned the game against the Kraken. When is their next game? Do they get a couple days off here?
Who's that? The Penguins?
The Penguins.
They have Monday off. They play Tuesday, and then they have Wednesday and Thursday off.
Who do they play after that?
They have a back-to-back Friday, Saturday with Buffalo and Washington.
Oh, boy. Well, you never know what you're going to get out of that Buffalo team. Sometimes they look like world beaters, and sometimes they look like a lottery team. And Washington, that's not going to be easy.
Nope.
So that's all I got, Robbie.
All right. So that's all Snail got. That's all I got. The Penguins get swept in a weekend back-to-back with Ottawa and Tampa Bay. Not a great result, but, hey, back on the horse on Tuesday evening with Seattle in town to wrap up this homestand. As always, Snail and I will be back to cover it. But until then, you guys stay warm, stay safe, and talk to you guys soon.